On this episode, we give our feedback on WWE Payback, talk about Kevin Owens' Raw debut, Lana turning face, Triple H's NXT media call, Stone Cold podcast, and more now on ByteThat. Welcome everybody, you are listening to episode 91 of ByteThat, the somewhat maybe international wrestling podcast where we talk about the WWE wrestling and just all the great things that are happening inside the squared circle. My name is Juan Velez. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and joining me as always all the way from Boston, Massachusetts, Ryan McNulty.
Juan, we are in the midst of a content overload. There's just so many things going on in WWE to watch, but I'm excited to talk about it.
No, definitely a lot. And we have another guy. He was a little under the weather. Are you feeling better, Keith?
I am feeling 100%.
Well, with that being said, Keith Poshik, people, Fyte Night General Manager, what's happening?
Hello, back from the darn near dead, here to talk about some wrestling. So, Juan, let's talk about some wrestling.
And what a show. You were absent last week, and now there's just so much to talk about. Not only we got Payback, right? We got Raw, Kevin Owens on Raw, Unstoppable happening this week, Elimination Chamber in 2 weeks. We got a Triple H NXT conference call. What's happening? It seems like I know that the WWE and Triple H, they've mentioned it multiple times, they want to use the network more, but it seems like more than ever, they are really pushing hard. Not only is May free network month, but it seems like they're just doing everything. I mean, Kevin Owens and John Cena in the ring. Payback was a pretty good show on Unstoppable. Do you guys feel the shift that's happening with the WWE?
I mean, it's nice because they're keeping that momentum, that almost that WrestleMania momentum going, right? Like, there's no lull, at least for the moment. And if it just stays here, then, hey, maybe we can be proud to be wrestling fans one day.
See, I think NXT it has the potential to be one of the best selling points for the network. I mean, it already is for anyone who's actually watched it. But the thing is, I think they want to get the mainstream WWE audience to kind of get in on the fun that's going on. So I think they're just trying to incorporate NXT more into Raw. I mean, we've seen Sami Zayn show up. There's just been a lot of reference to NXT. You know, they made sure when Neville debuted that it was very important to mention, you know, what he's done in NXT. So I think they're just trying to bridge that gap because it's a great selling point for the network. And especially, you know, you have Kevin Owens getting involved with John Cena. I mean, that's going to get people interested. Like, oh, now this guy's going to be in a show Wednesday, you know, who just powerbombed John Cena. So they're really making NXT make a statement to try and draw people to, you know, watching and, you know, subscribing.
And even beyond NXT, the difference between like now and last year is there's actually real exclusive content on the network. Now, some of it's good, some of it's bad, Jerry Springer point, but they're actually like releasing exclusive content on the network. Yeah, it isn't just like a backlog of all the old pay-per-views now. There's actually things to watch.
Yeah, because I think there was some report came out, I don't know where it came from, but they said that nobody's really watching the old stuff on the network.
And you see it once and then you're good, really. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to go watch the Royal Rumble 2000 every weekend for the rest of my life. I see it once, I know what happens.
And that's why we've seen this, like, influx of new content, which, you know, I'm tuning in for. So it's getting me on the network more. So I'm imagining that's the case with a lot of other people.
Yeah, definitely. There's a big incentive in the fact that the network is free right now. Obviously, there was the I Quit match at Payback. We'll get to Payback in a couple of minutes. But because this is such a large thing, I mean, this is almost a dream match happening day one. So John Cena beat Rusev in the I Quit match. I mean, we'll sort of delve into that a little bit. But then
let's go step by step. Okay, so I really want to hear this from Juan. So John Cena's in the ring.
Yes,
he does the open challenge thing, and then you hear Kevin Owens' music. How do you feel at that moment?
Aside from my wife looking at me like I was crazy when that happened and started laughing at me a lot, when I heard that music, I just couldn't believe it because I honestly thought I had Spotify on, okay, or something like that, because you don't expect that to happen. You're like, you already got Sami Zayn, so cool. That's awesome. That is the NXT champion is in the ring with John Cena, and I love the fact that it was not a match. I think that was the perfect segment. Talk about not only putting NXT on the map, but in day one, people are just going to go, who the hell is Kevin Owens? I went to the WWE Facebook page, and a lot of people were like, I don't know who this guy is, but I like his style. Like, holy crap, stepping on John Cena, that power bomb, everything was positive, and there happens to be an NXT show on Wednesday, so I think it is the way to play it out.
Yeah, it was awesome. I had no idea what to expect. Kind of the first thoughts that came to me were, how the hell are they going to do this match? I mean, it has to end in a DQ if they're going to do it. But like Juan said, definitely the best call is to just not do the match. And even better that we are going to see it. You know, when Kevin Owens first was like, you know, we are going to have a match, but it's going to be on my terms. I was thinking, oh, you know, he's thinking, you know, a year down the line. I didn't know we were going to get it right away at Elimination Chamber.
Yeah. I mean, this was really one of those situations where not having a match was more beneficial than actually sitting there and having a match, because even just from a Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn standpoint, the way those two interacted with John Cena was character development in itself. Like, Zayn's the guy that goes out there, gets injured, still has a hell of a match. But then there's Owens, who just, he's going to come in the ring, disrespect you, and then go have a match on his terms. Like, it's crazy character development between the two without them ever interacting once.
And we can just get rid of the logic that accepting an open challenge kind of is your own terms, isn't it? But,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it goes to show that wrestling, and we've said it so many times, it doesn't have to be complicated. The guy comes out, fakes you into thinking he's going to wrestle, people hate him. Talks trash about the other guy, points out that he's been wrestling more than the other guy. Guess what? People care. So I think that is absolutely amazing. Obviously, I do want to get to Elimination Chamber then. This is a match that is happening. I don't want to get predictions for who's going to win or not. But from a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you? Because this is huge. Not just for NXT, not just for WWE, but this is indie meets mainstream.
I would say my excitement is at about a 9.5, just because it's such an unexpected match. I really just think there's no chance Cena loses, but that's okay because, you know, Owens... Has Owens lost yet?
No.
I don't know how much that's going to even factor in, but it's just like, it is such an important match for NXT and kind of putting them into more of a focus, at least as far as recognition from, you know, the WWE side of things. It's more like just to see how it plays out. I'm not really, it doesn't really matter who wins.
You see, from my point of view, it's still too early to say at the time that we're recording this if John Cena could possibly lose or not. Like, I think if Owens loses at the next pay-per-view, I think he wins the U.S. title, because I think that's going to bump him up to the main roster, but he can't be U.S. champion and NXT champion.
Well, they didn't say it was a title match. I mean, he specifically...
Is it not a title match?
He specifically pointed out that he doesn't need that because he already has the NXT title, so...
That's true. Well, if it's a non-title... I guess. I don't know.
Could this be like
That's
the
weird.
brewings of some sort of NXT versus WWE type of event?
I mean, I think that this is definitely going to go well with the Triple H conference call. I know Keith and I read it, and you definitely see the references of what can happen in the future.
I mean, especially in that segment last night, it really hit home the fact that we're getting really, really close to that future where the NXT guys become WWE guys. Like, it's not just, oh, look at this amazing stuff happening over in the corner here. Now the corner is going to be that whole show. And it's happening sooner than we think.
The last thing I want to say about it is I wish Kevin Owens or the commentators would have pointed out this more, but when he mentioned that he'd been wrestling longer than Cena, but he's getting his chance now, I almost see NXT as being treated as they were the redheaded stepchild that are actually awesome. Like, the people that had all the talent in the world but just didn't get lucky. And I think that if they keep playing that card, because think about it, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens were two great examples. I mean, the two guys that were tag teams, were everything in the independent scene. Now they show up against Cena. I really think this can be the beginning of not a Nexus, not an NWO invasion or something like that, but just saying This is happening over here, and we are simply better.
It can almost out CM Punk.
Exactly. And that is the best way to probably put it. You're going to get some hate, but you're already get some hate, so why not?
Exactly. It's not like I care.
So, before Raw, there was a pay-per-view called Payback that apparently happened. Raw kind of overshadowed it.
Was it Payback or Paperback? Because I watched Paperback.
That confused me so much whenever you tweeted that.
Really? You didn't see that? You didn't see Michael Cole's little slip there?
Oh,
I
no.
loved it. I fell in love. No,
Wait,
and
you didn't
on,
see that?
On Raw 2 weeks ago, he's like, yeah, WWE Payback is this
really?
Sunday.
I
and I
catch that.
absolutely fell in love with that.
Oh, so you must have been really confused
I was
then.
horribly confused. I just kept getting upset. I'm like, I don't get the joke. I should have asked, but I guess that's a lesson to be learned. But Payback.
Yes, just get angry.
Yes.
Good call.
So the show happened. Obviously, I think that Elimination Chamber has a lot of people on standby, but I do want to get to sort of a couple of very specific matches. One of them being first the Tag Team Championship match. I think a lot of people, myself included, thought this was going to be the match of the night, and I do think it was the match of the night, even though the Fatal 4-Way was pretty good. But what do you guys think of, number one, the chemistry between each team? We got Tyson Kidd and Cesaro, we got the New Day, and then just the overall match that we ended up getting.
I mean, these guys just, know how to go. They just, like you said, they have just insane chemistry, and, they were given a good amount of time and they just tore it up. It just was crazy. I mean, even the fact, Cesaro had kind of a botch in there, but at least Big E's still safe, because that could have went a lot worse. But like the match was so good, it was just like, yeah, that took a little steam out of it, but then he just Cesaro fired up even more, brought the intensity, and it was amazing. I mean, these guys could feud for a year and I'd be completely okay with it.
Yeah, it's just that the fact that everybody's such a solid worker, if you just put it together, it just makes this beautiful thing. And to the botch thing, like, botches are almost kind of part of Big E matches at this point, are they not?
Cesaro specifically, something about that.
Yeah.
It's like they have a great match, but just at some point, something has to happen.
Something's going to go wrong, yeah.
But even then, like, the commentary, they sold it, like, because of the crazy spear that he took, that's why he couldn't use his full power or whatever. So the commentary actually did a positive. So there's something.
Yeah, one thing I really liked about the match was not even a move, but when Tyson Kidd was laid out near the announcer booth, and then Cesaro just grabbed a water bottle from a fan and then just poured water. And I don't know if you noticed, but he tried to give the fan the water back and it just fell on the floor. So poor fan. That's like an arena
I actually
bottle.
did see that moment. I actually really did appreciate that moment. That was one of those keeping the kayfabe real type of moments.
Yeah.
Like, because Kidd was like the legal man, so Cesaro was, he was on the apron or whatever. So the fact that he actually goes over to the other side, gets some water to like help recover his partner, you don't see things like that. So that was actually really cool.
Not true. A few years ago, R-Truth did that.
Years
and
ago.
it was real dumb.
You got me. A few years ago, which means we don't see
you
it
got
enough.
Ryan all motivated here, like about to cry, emotional.
I know, I'm sorry. This is literally the only time the fact that I know that R-Truth once went out of the ring and like poured water on his head will ever be useful. It was against John Morrison. It was on Raw. That is information that should die in my brain. Wow,
that's really specific. I'm kind of proud. So
you shouldn't be.
Okay, so the ending of that match. I think it was great, but from a kayfabe standpoint, is there a non-racist approach to how that happened?
Not really. I mean, can't we just say that, they have very similar body types, okay? And the fact that if it was, if Cesaro and Kidd were even wearing the exact same tire and in a small package roll-up or something, it's possible that the ref could be confused. If, like, given the fact that they were wearing the exact same attire, and from that angle of just seeing their back and their legs, I don't know.
I guess I'm just trying to be controversial.
You know, because when it comes to WWE and racism, there is a lot worse things out there. So
roll up. How dare they?
You know, this doesn't even come close to the other things that they've done.
I don't think that's okay though from that argument.
Maybe it isn't, but I don't think it's that bad.
Oh well.
All right, so let's switch up to the I don't want to say this, but Bray Wyatt, Ryback, the feud that we're trying to figure out, but continuously we just don't really get much into. I was watching Payback with Ryan, and I just kept saying back and forth, I'm trying really hard. I am legitimately watching the match, and I feel nothing. So, Keith, I don't know about your feedback, so I want to get that first. What do you think about this match? Did it change any of your perspective about the feud, the characters? What's up?
I mean, I agree with you completely. It was just at the end there, the build-up got real bad for that match. I wasn't even sure if they were going to have a match at Payback, in complete honesty. But yeah, it just felt like, hey, here's another match with Bray Wyatt in it. There was nothing special about it or anything. It's just, okay, we had this lukewarm feud. It's time to move on. But one thing that Bray Wyatt did show me, that if you have an itch it in the match, make sure to scratch it.
You love that gift way too much.
Yes, way too much. But no, honestly, it was just kind of lukewarm. Let's see what happens next. I mean, Wyatt has a feud. Ryback has a feud now, and Wyatt has nothing. It's like we're in a giant vicious circle that never ends with him.
Well, one thing I did learn is that maybe a senton splash from the apron to the outside isn't the best idea. Because I'm not sure if Ryback actually got hurt, but it seemed like he legitimately got like a rib cracked or something. But the thing with this feud is, I feel like, once again, a Bray Wyatt feud with no consequence. The next night on Raw, it's like the two guys just doing their own thing, like the match never even happened.
Exactly. It's really upsetting because so many guys, so many wrestlers in their podcast, Jericho, Stone Cold, they say that Bray Wyatt is the guy. And I think everybody can agree, but it's getting to the point where just this, the same way I guess people talk about Adam Rose or Leo Kruger, and when now we're just the character. I mean, the person can be awesome, but the character is just not getting over. I think it's getting to the point where I don't see anything that would get me invested into a Bray Wyatt storyline because he doesn't have the size. I think that if I was actually thinking about this, what is the difference between Bray Wyatt and The Undertaker? Because character-wise, they're both great. When you look at it on paper and execution, but Undertaker had another factor, which is presence and height. Undertaker was the dead man, but he was 7 foot tall. So it's like, holy crap, here's this mystical character, but is tall, strong, also agile, powerful, a striker, all of these things. But it seems like Bray Wyatt right now just has the character going for him.
See, I wouldn't even say that. I feel like the character is where they fumbled the most with Bray Wyatt. Like, if they let Bray Wyatt do his style, yeah, he's not this big, agile guy, but he's a powerhouse in the ring. Like, he has so many high-impact moves that's kind of Bray Wyatt's stick. Like, he'll just go in there and he'll hurt you. He kind of throws caution to the wind in his own way, and he'll use his own body a lot to do more damage to yours. But it's the character. I think the big difference there is that they didn't fumble the Undertaker's character over and over and over again like they're doing with Bray Wyatt. Like, he's done nothing recently, and that's why he's gotten stale.
Yeah, I think Undertaker could probably, because Undertaker has such a presence, like you're saying, he doesn't have to probably do as much as Bray Wyatt has to do to really stand out and have the same amount of impact. I think what Bray Wyatt needs to do is things. He needs to do things. I mean, like, he needs to do stuff like Ministry Undertaker was doing stuff, like putting people on a frickin' cross or something. You know what I mean? He needs to do some crazy stuff that makes people believe that he really is a monster, instead of just winning or losing a match and saying a bunch of, like, just crap. Verbal diarrhea, basically.
Yeah. You know what it all comes down to at the end of the day? Consequence. And there's none of it at this point.
Except for Consequences Creed.
Which we do have here. And he's a Freebird Rule Tag Team Champion, which is awesome. So let's actually get to the main event match. A lot of things happening here. Obviously, it was the Shield featuring Randy Orton in this match, and there was a lot of speculation about, were we going to get something? And we did. We got the Shield triple powerbomb, and man, that crowd erupted. Even I got goosebumps. I didn't think I was gonna, but it hasn't been that long. But it goes to show what effect the Shield had in such a short amount of time. What did you guys think about the match?
I thought it was a great match, and people are suckers for nostalgia. Even if it was a year old, people will just kind of go crazy for that stuff. And that spot was just perfectly done. I wouldn't have done it any other way, where it's like you did the triple powerbomb, everyone gets hyped up, and then Rollins goes for
that was the best part.
He goes for like the fist bump or whatever, and
He's so hateable.
both like, yeah, it's like, we didn't forget about the whole backstabbing thing. So I thought the psychology of the whole match was good, because even when it came down to Ambrose and Reigns, it wasn't like they were fighting like it was a regular match. They acknowledged, hey, we're still buddies. Let's see who the better man is. So the whole match really made sense. And it was a nice surprise to have a pedigree in there too.
Nice surprise, but yeah.
Except to be proven wrong.
So about that pedigree, I'm sorry to interrupt this regularly scheduled program, but about 3 weeks ago, I got on this podcast and I mentioned the fact that maybe, somewhat maybe, Seth Rollins should incorporate the pedigree as his finisher. Now, that was a terrible pedigree, I'll admit.
But
speaking about the positive part, yeah, I think it makes perfect sense. He is Triple H's son, except he's not.
But I still don't think it does, because if Triple H never wrestles again, then yes, let Seth Rollins use the pedigree. But we assume Triple H is probably going to have at least one other match in his career. And as long as that's a thing, Seth Rollins is just using Triple H's move. Like, he doesn't have his own move. He's just filling in and making people remember the pedigree until Triple H comes along and uses said pedigree. I don't think it builds or helps Seth Rollins in any way.
I agree with Keith in that we'll never know if it's truly going to feel like his move, but it's definitely better than that crappy DDT stuff or another super kick or something, because I know you use that, like the super kick thing, as like a finisher on SmackDown or something. It's like, we already see 10 million super kicks a night, so that definitely is out. Don't do that DDT thing. We see enough of those. So if it can't be the curb stomp, the pedigree at least is a statement maker. It means something. It has a legacy to it. It's a good fix, but I don't know if, it's ever going to really be Seth Rollins's, especially the fact that, he's so close to Triple H, and like Keith said, he's still wrestling. So, jury's still out. He could make it his own.
I think that's why it totally works, though, because think about the evolution of the character. First, he was completely cowardly, stupid, borderline idiotic heel, but then he's progressively changing. It's like Triple H really is, instead of a four-man stable with Evolution, they just have the authority supporting this one guy, if you think about it. If put the main event of Raw, that celebration thing, and compare it to Evolution when Randy Orton was kicked out. It was basically the same thing. It was the exact same segment. It was the celebration. You won. That is absolutely awesome. Even I was contemplating the fact that, are they going to turn on him or something? But then I came to the realization, Seth Rollins is Triple H's career in one guy. He is the DX ridiculous, idiotic guy. He's also the cerebral assassin type guy. He is all of that. But and he's still not found Seth Rollins. And I think that is the character. It's who is Seth Rollins. And I think they're self-aware, and I think that's why they gave him the pedigree. Because if you see everything that's happening, and the fact that even Seth Rollins was dressed like Triple H on Raw, I mean, I don't think that happened to be a coincidence. The same type of white shirt underneath. It's the little details, but when you can look back, it's a lot of material. And I'm going to say right now, Triple H is going to have one more match in him, and it's going to be against Seth Rollins for the pedigree.
For the pedigree.
Yes, not for the win, but for the pedigree. For the P, man. Got to get that P in.
I think he's going to have more than one match.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think he'll be Undertaker 2. The same way Seth Rollins is Triple H 2, Triple H will be Undertaker 2.
Because why not? So we got a couple more things before we split off into the announcements. I want to talk about Dean Ambrose. So this man actually got a lot of time on Raw. Way too much considering he lost in that match. And then all these things kept happening. I personally enjoyed. But how interesting is it that he basically gets a title opportunity in the future, considering the fact that he lost, and then there's other people involved that just, I guess, don't matter. I mean, Roman Reigns, who's this guy? What does he need?
Yeah, he wasn't even on Raw. He returns on SmackDown because returns mean nothing anymore. But it just goes to show.
Miss 1 day of TV.
Well, Keith returns
Exactly.
like that.
Exactly. I'll be gone next week. It'll be a huge return, and everybody will celebrate in the streets. But it just goes to show that nothing in wrestling matters. It is a month-to-month cycle where anything can happen. All this debating, all this speculation.
Pack it up, boys. We're done here.
But seriously, if Dean Ambrose loses how many months in a row, gets 2 title shots in a row, like really the only thing that matters is how hot you are. Because Dean Ambrose is getting, but Dean Ambrose gets the loudest cheers, so Dean Ambrose gets the title shot right now.
Now, I know that would be an awesome segue into talking about Lana, but I have to get my Ambrose stuff in, so sorry, Juan.
So I know I can segue, but I'm going to reference it and to just still not talk about it.
Well, now I just gave away the whole angle there, but this Ambrose thing, yeah, he loses to Wyatt. He loses in the Fatal 4-Way, but he still gets a title shot because, you know, wins and losses don't matter.
Technically, didn't Randy Orton get pinned, though? So he kind of didn't lose.
No, but I'm going to say at least in this situation, because a lot of times we see, you know, oh, I've lost a bunch of matches or I haven't won a match, whatever, but I'm going to punch you in the face and now I get a title shot because you're mad at me and I'm mad at you. At least they did something where Ambrose was like threatening the well-being of Rollins and forcing them into giving him a title shot. So it was sort of like this out of the norm, forcing the hand of the authority to give Ambrose what he wants. So I at least appreciate that. It kind of fits Ambrose's character where it's like he doesn't care. He does something crazy so that he can get what he wants. So in this situation, I feel like despite the fact that he hasn't gotten a lot of wins, they at least made it make sense for him to get the title shot in the way that he did.
Agreed. And all joking aside, like, Rollins and Ambrose always have great matches. And if we go back to last year, we never really got a definitive conclusion to the Ambrose-Rollins storyline.
Don't think we will, though.
You don't think we will this time?
Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then never mind. My whole point is no.
Quick food for thought.
You can still have your opinion. It doesn't mean we're right.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to let you shoot me down.
All right, well, now we ruined it. Now I feel terrible.
It's okay.
But I feel like this just Elimination Chamber for a lot of things kind of just feels like a pit stop. And I feel like because, you know, Ambrose was hot off of this Fatal 4-Way. They were like, you know, this is a good kind of small title match to throw on this Elimination Chamber special. Because it's not even like a pay-per-view, it's a special.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like a bump in the road for them to get over.
And there's the bump in the road, and then we're going to go over it. Because why not?
Yeah.
So, on the other side of that road. Yes. Somehow. I mean, Ryan already got my segue. So, Lana. So, this was long speculated. And then she has officially turned face. Quick nitpick. She completely lost her accent multiple times.
No, she was dropping
instantly.
that accent. Is that part of it? You know, them Americans, man, they won't like her if she still got the accent. So you gotta Americanize her.
I mean, really, that's how powerful Dolph Ziggler's kiss is. It can change your nationality in an instant.
Do you think it was part of the plan, though, the fact that she was losing her accent? Because she always has at some point. But it was really bad on Raw. The part where she was apologizing and just saying, I'm sorry, that was just flat out the person behind the character.
I feel like she's, you know, waning off of her accent, you know, like she's an alcoholic or something, you know what I mean? She's like slowly coming off of it. Because like before you know it, she won't have an accent and we won't even notice. It's like we're being conditioned. Like, oh, her accent's slightly, next week it'll be a little bit less and a little bit less, and before you know it, she's talking with an American accent.
And I mean, to be fair, if you go hang out in another country, eventually you're going to adapt some parts of the accent, right? Like if you spend a lot of time in Australia.
Is this the kayfabe explanation?
Yeah. Yes, 100%. So she spent so much time in America, she's starting to really adapt on the American accent. You know what I'm saying?
All of a sudden, she just loves America.
Exactly.
Maybe just go from face to face just magically makes that accent go away.
This was all pretty rushed, I feel like. I don't know if you guys agree.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I think that at the beginning, they were teasing it. But then by the next week, it was like, okay, so you can tell what's happening. Third week, yeah, this is happening next week. Fourth week, done. It's official. I mean, it took a month and so much.
Well, I mean, even just in yesterday's Raw, where it's, she's arguing with Rusev, and then all of a sudden I see, Ziggler come out. I go to grab a drink. I come back. And Ziggler and Lana are making out. I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, that to me just felt completely weird. I could have done without the Dolph Ziggler part because I think it took so much away. Once again, Rusev and Lana have been such a large focus on Raw that all of a sudden you like shoehorn Ziggler in there. And it just takes away so much because Lana, Russian or not, whatever the case, she was like she wasn't a diva. She was a woman. Like, she was in a different category.
What are you trying to say about the divas?
No, but you know what I mean, though? Like, she seemed different. Like, I couldn't see her wrestle. Like,
yeah, like, you can't see Lana as an active competitor. She's a manager.
Yeah, or because...
Kind of in the same way that, like, Vicky wasn't really a diva. She was kind of in a separate... situation.
I would almost say like a Miss Elizabeth or Sensational Sherry. Like, they weren't active competitors. They were more valets.
Yeah, like, for better or worse, she was in a different category. But doing this with Ziggler sort of made it go like, okay, so you're just another one of the bunch. It took a year's worth of build-up, and it comes out to just, not only am I going to kiss her, I'm going to kiss her like twice, and then backstage segment with Ziggler, I'm just like super cool about it, like, oh my God, call me. What happened? I mean, do people in real life change that quick? And I just didn't notice.
And that's why it's so rushed. I mean, they'd only been doing this for like a year. So I feel like it was way too soon to break them up. And also, you need to do some sort of transition in her character where she went from just bad-mouthing America and, hardcore, anti-American stuff. There was no, reform from that. There's no apology. There's, I don't know, maybe her apologizing would probably only make the crowd dislike her more. But there's no explanation. It's just, hey, sorry about that whole anti-America stuff. We're cool now, right, guys?
I guess there's one word that we can bring up again, and that is consequence. There was no consequence to anything. This happened. And now this is happening. And everything in between just doesn't matter.
And not only is it weird for Lana, but think about Rusev in this as well. He went from this Bulgarian brute, this destroyer, this crusher, to a jealous boyfriend that's going to like almost stalk Lana. Like, how does this help Rusev?
I think they tried way too hard at thinking, how do we get rid of this nationality thing with either character? Let's do the boyfriend-girlfriend thing, which I think we actually talked about at some point. The problem is it is so desperately rushed that Rusev is in that Wyatt family category where after Bray Wyatt split, you saw where everything was going to go because one guy just has to take all the hits, and then she's getting all the benefits, and she's getting the D, Dolph Ziggler. So,
not to mention though, is notice how they didn't really mention. They didn't really mention Russia. They were talking about like she was saying Bulgarian brute and emphasizing the whole Bulgaria thing. So you can already tell, even though a month ago we got Rusev coming out in a freaking tank with the Russian flag, and now it's just like, oh yeah, it's Bulgaria now. You can just forget about that.
Wrestling. Gotta love it.
They just do what's convenient. Instead of having there's no transition. We need some transitional storylines. No transitional champions. Transitional storylines.
This is so upsetting.
Rusev was Russian.
Hey, remember
then he
how
was
excited we
Bulgarian.
were like 20 minutes ago about wrestling? I don't feel that right now.
Where is the transition? There's no character transitioning. It's just, hey, I'm a bad guy. Hey, I'm a good guy. Everybody's big showing it up.
I think it's more of and I know I'm getting into some deep territory here, but this is a good topic. WWE seems to have a huge problem with female characters and just what to do with them. Because, I mean, the Bella Twin story, they were hating on each other for months and nothing came out of it. AJ Lee and Paige, they were doing this great thing and nothing came out of it. And then now this. We have Lana, who was this character that could be in the ring with The Rock, okay? And then you could buy that as a storyline. Now she's, with Dolph Ziggler, cool, because, why not?
Like, just thinking about it in my head, if you reversed those segments, it would have been just so much better. So instead of Lana coming out when Ziggler came out, like, say maybe they were fighting in the ring, Rusev was getting all up in her grill, and then Ziggler saved her, it just would have been so much better and made so much more sense. But I guess that's not a word we use around here.
I get kind of a rhetorical question for you guys before we get to our midpoint or whatever. But, arguably right now we are in like the second golden age of television where there are just so many amazing shows going on and they just keep churning them out one after another and everybody's loving it. And I don't even know if people are kind of recognizing how good TV is right now. Are we all just wasting our time watching wrestling?
I don't think it's wrestling. I think the problem is WWE has conditioned us a lot. Case in point, I'm watching Ring of Honor. They have an hour-long show on web. I just watched it. They have great matches, simple storylines. This guy hates the other guy, and then this is a believable bad guy. Guess what? I enjoy it. It's an hour. It's not this huge investment. It's not 3 hours. It's not even 2 hours. If I want more, I can get an iPay-per-view. And if not, that is more than good enough. So I think it's the problem of WWE, not wrestling, is an investment of not just Raw, but it's like you got to consume all of this to get the same character development that Breaking Bad or Daredevil that I'm watching right now gives you in one episode. An hour long versus how many hours? Takeover is 2 hours. Elimination Chamber, 3. We got 5 hours. Then 6, 7, we got 8. Then another 8. Then another 3, I mean. How many hours for this storytelling? Is that beneficial? Is that worth people's time? As much as I know we love the product, and I know we're like pumped, even though we're hating on it right now, in a way, it's the sad part of wrestling. But I guess, you know how we can summarize this? There's a video that I know Keith loves named Wrestling Isn't Wrestling, which is when wrestling's bad, it's terrible. But when it's great,
when it's
all
good.
of these things.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it could be 80 hours worth. But that 1 hour, that in the 79 that are terrible, that 1 hour is just so good.
That's
so
how they get you.
good.
Case in point, the Kevin Owen segment on Raw this week, it got
made
everybody.
everything
it got
okay.
everybody.
We're smiling again. And just 2 minutes ago, we were hating
that
on
was
this.
the one segment that saved the other 2.5 hours of crap we watched.
Now, Juan, you mentioned a video that people could go watch explaining this, right?
Yes, sir.
Is there another video that somebody could go check out maybe this Thursday at youtube.com/ByteThatCast, where maybe we talk about this a little more?
Oh, is it a round table of the squared kind, Keith?
Last time I checked, it was a squared round table.
Yes, we do have a new video taking place on the YouTube channel. It's Ryan, Keith, and myself. We do basically bite-sized podcasts, no pun intended, where for about 10 to 15 minutes we talk about a couple of things. This week we talk about WWE presenting itself as a sport or TV show. We've sort of talked about it here. If you want more, do yourself a favor, go to the channel. We also got the Fyte Nights. The Fyte Nights are awesome. It is our fantasy wrestling league. Ryan and myself commentate. Keith is the general manager by kayfabe.
I am the law. I am the sheriff in town.
We have a banana, okay, that freaking wrestles, banana bread wrestles, and there's Roman Reigns also, because why not? Also in the channel, A huge shout out to JTG. A great interview about his brand new book, his time in the WWE, and not just that, but just really cool guy. Had a great just conversation before and after the interview. Do yourself a favor, get that book. It's not this bitter, forget the WWE. I almost said something else. It's more of just these things happen, and I wish they did, not just for me, but for everybody else. So that's awesome. Takeover Unstoppable happening this Wednesday. And another cool thing, WWE 2K16 has a confirmed release date of October 2016. I believe it is October 27th to be specific. They announced the PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One versions. Note, I am not saying PC.
Oh, it's going to happen every year, isn't it?
Yeah, so a lot of speculation about the fact that because PC has a lot of mods, they are going to delay that version each year just to make sure that people just get the mods and don't get any DLC.
So they buy it twice. They buy it originally to play the game, and then when the PC version comes out, they buy it again to try out all the mods.
Yeah, and for those listening,
it's a trap that we will fall in.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like the PC mods right now, there's like updated schemas, like current hair, everything, just every single thing from themes to entrance music to lighting, textures. It is ridiculous. So I can sort of see why they would do that, but come the hell on. Seriously.
That was real close.
Yeah, that was real close. But it sucks. We would have used this for Fyte Night. Think of all the things we could do, but we can't. So there's that. And then another announcement, and we got to talk about this, okay? Stone Cold Podcast on the network. It's coming back, guys.
Woo! It's actually super exciting, and it gets even better.
Yeah.
All the smarks can stop complaining. Jericho's gone. Austin is in. But, Jericho's going to be doing Tough Enough. But obviously, Austin, we all know the quality of the interviews. It was just way more captivating. And we're getting a insane list of people that are going to be on this.
Yeah, because at Payback, we got the snowball effect. So they reveal the first interview is Paul Heyman, which Paul Heyman I could listen to for 24 hours a day and not get bored. But then you go to the WWE website, and they just point out, oh, Hulk Hogan, Sting, and The Undertaker, okay?
Oh, The Undertaker, guys!
I mean, the guy that's pretty much never been in an off-character interview, except that This Is My Yard DVD that was like an hour long. This is it. Can this episode be like 3 hours long?
God, I hope. You say how you can listen to Paul Heyman talk for days and days and days. I just want to listen to Undertaker road stories for the rest of my life. I will die happy. I am so excited for the concept of The Undertaker being on a podcast. I can't wait for this.
Yeah, most of what we know about The Undertaker, at least in a backstage setting, is what we hear from other people. So to actually hear a lot of direct stories from him, it's like this is kind of, he's the last holdout of interviews like everyone wants to see. So this is pretty amazing.
And plus, just like the presence the Undertaker commands, like Stone Cold could just say names for an hour and Undertaker give his opinion, and that's it. And like, I think he has a really good input on like most of the problems that the WWE's having that we haven't really heard. Like, wouldn't you love to listen to the Undertaker talk about this whole quote unquote millennial and brass ring problem? Like, that's so exciting.
That leads me to, I'm going to put you guys on the spot, myself included. Not so much Paul Heyman, because he's been in multiple podcasts, has his own documentary, but for Undertaker, Hogan, and Sting, I want you to name at least one thing, one realistic thing. It doesn't have to be all shoot, hate the world type thing, but one thing you really want to get out of each interview.
Undertaker definitely want to get his thoughts on the whole streak situation. I'm sure that's going to be a question. It might be one of the first things he asks, like how he felt about it. Was it the right move and all that? Hogan, there's not too I've heard a lot of Hogan interviews. I've listened to him on multiple podcasts. So off the top of my head, I really can't think of, anything that
that's honestly the one I care the least about.
Yes. And only like Heyman and Hogan, I don't care as much because I've heard a lot of great interviews from them.
Yeah.
So there's not too much left that I can think of. Sting, obviously, his WWE experience, because I actually saw one of the DVDs on his TNA, kind of his stuff leading up to TNA and kind of a little bit of that when he came out with one of those DVDs. But for Sting, kind of his WWE experience, how he felt about his match and what his plans are moving forward. Is he going to do another match, another 2 matches? Kind of his future with the company.
Yeah, for me, the Undertaker one, like I said, I want to hear about the whole brass ring millennial thing and his input on it. Hogan, like Ryan, don't really know what I want to hear. I'm hoping that maybe something surprises me and maybe that ends up cool, but I'm not as excited for a Hogan interview. And Sting, the one thing I really want him to go into detail about is kind of his opinion of the end of WCW. Like, he was the last fighter for WCW for a long time, and just really go into detail, like why he kept thinking that was a ship to believe in, like that was a place to plant his flag and a hill to die on. Maybe it was just money at that point or whatever, but I'd really like to hear Sting's 2 cents about that.
I'm going to ditto that last Sting one. I think that is what a lot of people have always speculated. More than just his wrestling career, but about WCW. Well, you're so loyal to a company, but everybody, the fans, they can see, the bottom of
all the bad.
Yeah, exactly. All the negative things that are going to come out of it, yet he stuck around. I mean, talk about a company employee that you want to keep around, For Hogan,
kidding.
I would say similar, but how much did he do for the money versus how much did he do for passion? Like, I'm thinking like midway through WCW, like long after the NWO was a thing, and when they tried to bring it back, at some point, it just could not have been for entertainment. I just cannot buy it. It just seemed for TV, it just seemed so much like, well, this leads me to making more money because I'm featured more, so let's do that. And then for The Undertaker, I'm not sure this is going to be something that Stone Cold would ask him about, but sort of the transformation in the locker room. Not so much from the millennial standpoint, but just from wrestling to sports entertainment, because he was one of the first sports entertainment characters that had a longevity. I know a lot of people say, Goldust was the first Attitude Era character, but he was feuding with Ted DiBiase. I mean, he was with Ted DiBiase when he debuted, not feuding. So this is a guy that's seen everything. He's faced pretty much everybody, and just the transformation from wrestling back then where, the word kayfabe alone, saying it, even as a fan, was offensive, to now, where it's a hashtag, where it's heel Ziggler, is Dolph Ziggler's Twitter handle. Back then, I'm assuming something wrong was going to go with that. So I would love to hear about that. And now, this is pretty awesome. So as we mentioned, Triple H had the NXT conference call. A lot of really good information. We don't really have any specific things. We're just going to see, which things stick out more as we talk about them. One of the things that he does point out is that he does want to see NXT on the road at least 3 days a week by 2016. He wants NXT to have a 2-hour tour function, and he doesn't want to lose the homegrown audience in Florida. So it seems like Triple H just wants to keep everything in a way.
Yeah.
But what
he wants the best of all the worlds.
Yeah, so this goes a long way with, he also points out that he definitely sees it as a third brand. So you got Raw, SmackDown, NXT. What do you guys think about?
But at the same time, he still says that it's a breeding ground.
Exactly.
Like it's its own thing. It's still a breeding ground for Raw and SmackDown. And to that, I think that the travel on the road can only be a beneficial thing, right? Because really, at the end of the day, you're training these people to go like in this one space to be superstars, and then you're sending them out on the road to live the whole life. So now you're kind of conditioning them for that as well, and maybe it won't be as much of a shock at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it can only make everyone even more ready. I mean, the guys they bring up from developmental now are way more ready than guys they used to bring up from, OVW and stuff a couple of years ago. So it's just going to make them even more ready. Because, I mean, even the guys who, went from NXT to the main roster who weren't as successful as, you know, some of the other ones. It's like they were still way more ready than a lot of the guys we saw in 2005, 2006, etc.
Sylvain Grenier, what? So something that I want to add on to this is that he mentions there are plenty of talent that won't make it to the main roster and gimmicks that won't work on the main roster. And then to add to that, he also brings up the fact that, you know, they can sort of basically, I'm paraphrasing for the sake of summary, but they can work other things that wouldn't work with the main audience of the WWE. So they want to create a specific ambience, crowd, storylines for NXT, which goes a lot with what we've been saying.
I mean, there was one superstar that really popped into my head when I read that, and that was Enzo Amore. Like, I've always felt that he wouldn't really work on the main roster, but because it's that small crowd, they go crazy for it. So it's interesting how, like, even Triple H acknowledges that.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. NXT, I mean, he's completely right about that, is because that crowd is so passionate and such a hardcore wrestling fan base that they recognize talent and they will make things work. You know, the crowd will embrace things that they know are good that other crowds might not embrace. Like, they will make something work because they want to have a good time and they want to make things fun. I mean, you can look at the Ascension with the "Yah" chants. Like, they will find anything about a character as long as they're, you know, decent, and they will find a way to make it fun. Whereas you're not going to get that kind of audience participation at regular arenas on Raw and SmackDown. So, I mean, it's good that I mean, obviously, you know, these guys have been in the business and Triple H can recognize that. But
it's just unfortunate because, like, at the end of the day, if it's a breeding ground, why would you let that go? Like, there's almost like a dark side to it. Like, you know they're going to change eventually, right? So why are you, like, leading them down this false path in a way?
It is a really good question. And I honestly think when it comes to Enzo specifically, I still feel like that character could work as it was originally intended to be, which was a heel character. It just like the crowd just loved it so much they turned into like some of the biggest baby faces. But that was, you know, he's meant to be this obnoxious guy from New Jersey who's yelling and screaming at people and freaking out, and that could, I mean, how much similar to Zack Ryder? I mean, it's different, but it's still the Jersey thing. I don't know, or Jersey, New York, or whatever.
Well, it goes back to the thing where I mentioned John Cena and Kevin Owens is indie versus mainstream in the way that Triple H brings up Ring of Honor and Dragon Gate and says they're a fan of that and they don't want to compete like NXT compete with them, but help them grow. But I think there's a really thin line where one of the cool things about being in an independent company, and I say that working for like a local company here in Puerto Rico and all that, is that people, even though there's like 20 people in the crowd, they are part of it. They feel like they can talk to that wrestler on Facebook or whatever, and it's hard not to like them. I mean, like Enzo Amore, you know, even Carmella. Carmella's somebody that people hated, but then she's aligned with Enzo, had a cool segment. All right, she's cool now. That doesn't happen in the main roster. So I think it's really tough thing where at some point WWE has to go, either it is this smaller thing where people can feel more intimate with it, or it's not.
It's interesting from that point because on here we've even said a couple times the one thing that wrestling is lacking on the WWE scale is competition. Like, it's just the one beast and that's the big dog in the yard. But really what Triple H is saying here, it sounds like, is he wants to use NXT to help these guys get better, so that way by osmosis, wrestling gets better and better and better, and everything becomes a better and better product. And wrestling as a whole becomes better through that over time.
No, definitely. And there's way too many things to talk about here. If you want to get a really good rundown version of this, go to the r/Squared Circle subreddit. And there's a thread with the name of Full Recap of Triple H's NXT media call, and they basically bullet point all these things so you can get to the specific things. They talk about Samoa Joe, a lot of cool things.
Well, before we move on, there was actually one little thing that I really wanted to talk about with you guys, one of Triple H's points, and he said that there's a lot of guys in NXT that are ready to get called up, but there's just no room on the roster for them. Now, does that concern you guys at all? Because it seems weird. Like you're doing these great things down there, but there's just no room for you. And how, like, where does this room come then?
When other guys either retire or get released, unfortunately. But that's kind of the reality of it. But I completely agree with Triple H. I mean, you've seen what happens when they bring somebody up and then they just get lost in the shuffle. It's a lot worse than just staying down in NXT, except for maybe, getting paid a little bit more, which obviously to some of the guys, and I don't even know if you get paid that much more because you might get paid by appearance. So who even knows about that aspect of it? But it's better to get called up at the right time than to just be forced up and then just have nothing going on. Because, I mean, you see so many people get lost in the shuffle, and you really don't want to see it to a lot of these guys that have so much potential, and that it can legitimately hurt your career, and it can be hard to bounce back from.
Do you think Sami Zayn is one of those guys? Because that's kind of the thing that I
don't think Sami Zayn is an example. I think they're using him as the face of NXT, because I think that was the big problem when some guys started to get called up. Like when Bray Wyatt left, there was a large gap because it just felt like developmental, if you know what I mean. And I think they need a couple of guys that have to take the bullet basically and say, you're going to be the face of this, because when people tune into NXT, much like WWE, they hope to see blank and blank and blank and blank. And if everybody's just getting called up, it's just going to lose that appeal. And for your question, Keith, I think the best answer is, number one, that's why NXT has to expand in some form. Number two, I said this before the network even came out. If the WWE wants to succeed in wrestling, instead of taking everybody out, they should bring everybody in. Like all the companies, because you're creating a pool of talent. But at some point, people are just not going to get called up because right now there's just no room. Not everybody can be the number one, number two, number three, and number four guy. And I'm saying that with a very lengthy show. So I think the only way is, here's the network, Ring of Honor. You want to be here? Let's collaborate somehow. I'll feed you some talent. You get me views on the network. You get me subscribers. Everybody's happy. So with that being said, Mr. Poshik, I know we do have a couple of questions we want to get to. So my friend, go for it.
Yes, but before we get to that, Juan, where can people submit questions?
I should always remember to bring that up. There are a multitude of ways. You can do something that Mr. Xavier D did and send us an email, ByteThatcast@gmail.com. You can also send us a tweet at ByteThatCast. Send us a message on Facebook. You can go to Wrestling Amino. It's a wrestling app. You can get it on an Android, and it's pretty awesome. We're there. We post our videos, and you can leave a comment there. So there's a lot of ways that you can love us, or you can even leave a comment on the YouTube video.
Thank you, Juan, for that. And like Juan said, Mr. Xavier D sent us the old email to ByteThatCast@gmail.com, and he asks, at first it seemed like John Cena was helping these lower card / NXT guys by letting them get over on him at points during matches. Now, especially with Kevin Owens on Raw, it just makes Cena look bad and lose credibility since it happens every week. Also, does it make these guys look bad because it's not believable when it happens over and over? Do you agree? Do you disagree? And why? I kind of disagree, because at the end of the day, yeah, they're like, it keeps happening and getting over on Cena, but Cena is still the guy. Cena still wins at the end of the day. Like, maybe the whole kicking out of an AA thing is getting a little old, but other than that, no, I think it helps build these guys instantly. Kevin Owens is a perfect example.
Yeah, I agree with Keith. I mean, Cena's definitely still looking strong, and I mean, he's still beating Rusev 3 matches straight, so you got that going. They're making these guys look good without making them look too good. I mean, maybe 2 consecutive weeks of kicking out of an AA was pushing it, but that would probably be my only nitpick, because at the end of the day, Cena's still winning, and those guys are still looking like $1 million. I really feel like it's an everybody kind of wins scenario, except for Rusev.
Absolutely. I think you can compare this to when they had the ECW guys on Raw, except now it's completely beneficial because NXT is a WWE-owned product. You have a lot of guys that everybody listening, I'd actually like to know, who didn't know about Kevin Owens before Raw? I'm assuming the majority probably know about him, but then a large percentage of the WWE audience, let's be honest, they saw a fat guy that can do a powerbomb. Because I was looking at the comments, and a lot of people would say that. But Then you see that fat guy, quote unquote, do a powerbomb, and you're like, oh, he just powerbombed John Cena, and he stomped on the U.S. Championship. Oh, there's a show on the network, and this is an alternative product. All right, I got to check that out. Guess what? He's not a fat powerbomb guy. He's freaking Kevin Owens, and he's freaking awesome.
It says KO in his name.
Exactly. He fight him.
Holy malarkey.
He's got a cool T-shirt.
Indeed.
That I should probably get.
Yeah, you and me both. But thank you for your question. Well,
We're
look at us. Aren't we just a Kevin Owens party over here? Yay! But on to the next question. Mr. Travis Hayes asks on YouTube,
Love you.
what do you think about... What?
Love you, Travis Hayes.
Oh, yes.
No relation to Rex Hayes.
None. That we know of. You never know, right?
That's true.
He asks, what do you think about having Kevin Owens come onto the main roster at around like SummerSlam and joining the Authority for the time being and being a Brock Lesnar style character? Now, maybe not around SummerSlam, but I think that's kind of the direction they're going in personally, because they already established that Kevin Owens Authority link. They even had Triple H tweet his picture with Kevin Owens every single time they're together. Their obligatory picture is the word I'm looking for. So I think they're establishing that, and that's the way they're going to go. He's going to be like Seth Rollins is heavy, or the Authority's heavy going forward.
That's a definite possibility. They, like Keith said, they already planted those seeds. I don't know if it's going to be like a Brock Lesnar type of situation. I think Brock Lesnar is just so unique that you're really not going to see another Brock Lesnar, but definitely being like a muscle or something. But on the other hand, I could also see him just kind of being a lone wolf when he gets called up. But, like they said, that the connection was established. So there's a good chance.
Yeah, I think there will be some sort of alliance with the Authority. Not so much in the Brock Lesnar role, because Brock Lesnar was in the room with the Authority, but he wasn't with the Authority. I see it more of they want longevity. They want somebody that they can say he's got 10 years in this company. Oh, let's bring up these up-and-comers from NXT because they're still young, they're hungry, and they're willing to do whatever it takes for us. So then Seth Rollins was the first NXT champion, and then they want to bring up other people, something like that, I think is what's going to end up happening.
Do you think that it almost hurts the fact that Kevin Owens said he's wrestling as long as John Cena? It doesn't really make him seem like that young guy anymore.
No, not at all, actually. I actually think it's for the best because I think I mentioned this in a couple of episodes ago, but it's sort of weird. We are 25, 24, around that area, and wrestlers are around our age. And that's weird to think about because when you're a kid, you see, this adult. So it's nice for a change. So we see a new face on WWE TV that is actually older than us because I see a man, taking on John Cena, not a young up-and-comer. Even though I just said he's a young up-and-comer.
It makes me feel like I've accomplished nothing in life.
Yeah.
Yep. Randy Orton won his first title at 24. What did you do?
I started
a podcast with you guys at 24, so why not?
True. Yay, us. And here we are almost at episode 100. Holy malarkey. On to the next question. Now we're moving over to the Twitter machine, and the first one is asked by frequent questionnaire, Mr. Cody Collier. He asks, do you think we could see Cena at NXT TakeOver Unstoppable and try to cost Owens the title to help further their feud? I think we'll see him at Unstoppable, but I don't think he'll be doing that. It'll be like a confrontation style.
I could see I bought a front row ticket to Unstoppable type of scenario where he's sitting in the front row, or he shows up to do some sort of intimidation thing, but I don't think he would actually, cost anyone a match.
Think about John Cena sitting in that crowd for a minute.
Yeah, it might be a bit of a mess, actually, but they might do something, with that. But he should definitely show up just to do that. And plus, they want to promote the whole Elimination Chamber thing, so it'd be a really good idea.
It'd be a really good idea, but I don't want to see it happening. I'm afraid if that were to happen and he got some way involved, I'm scared of WWE thinking, oh, we should do this more. WWE guys being in NXT. ECW thing happened, and then we remember WWE ECW. That was not a very
Is
good
that
thing.
bad though? Because they've had a bunch of WWE guys come down and feud with the other guys, and I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, but
Yeah, some of the best matches, like think about Zayn and Cesaro. Like those are some of the best
Cesaro.
matches in NXT history.
but like Jericho came down, like they've done some good things with that.
yeah, but it was
Natalia's
different.
been down.
It was different though because then it was exhibition. Like, you know what? I'm here to wrestle. Like, I'm here to see who the young guys are. I'm scared of seeing storylines starting to bridge to the point where instead of seeing like the homegrown or NXT type storylines, we see like just, oh, Raw is sort of leaking onto NXT. That I'm scared of, not everything else. Cesaro was awesome in NXT, and I think that's Tyson Kidd, all these guys.
We don't want to see NXT turn into Raw
Yeah.
Junior, which
Yeah.
I completely agree with you on that point.
But I mean, to play devil's advocate, can you have that but not have NXT leak onto Raw? Like, can you have it both ways, really?
Let's just have nobody leak on anybody. Let's
Let's avoid
everybody
that.
stay dry.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a really good life advice.
Moving on to the next question, Keith.
No better way to move on to the next question. From Nick or Champ Rollins at NKBE1324 on Twitter. He asks, do you think the Elimination Chamber is going to be good or just kind of average? And I'm going to say neither, because right now it is slated to be effing awesome.
Awesome. It's like
Awesome.
the chain. I agree. It's going to be
Exactly.
awesome.
I think it's going to be, well, yeah, I know. I want more options than good or just average, but if I'm going to actually go, I'm going to answer the question straight. I'm going to say I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be pretty good.
Exactly. I am very excited to watch it in 2 weeks. And I mean, we're getting an extra pay-per-view this year, and it doesn't feel like a slog, like, oh my God, there's another one of these this year. So that really says as much statement as you possibly can at this point. So, Mr. Nick, or Champ Rollins, thank you for your question. Now on to the final question of the show. Are you?
Yes.
All right. Well, it's from J4 Gaming. You know him. You love him. He's a hell of a guy. He asks, Keith, will you marry me? So, guys, will I marry him?
I think you guys should do the wedding, and then somebody's going to show up and interrupt it.
Yeah,
I don't know who it's
Slick
gonna be.
is
Like a
going to be the
bear.
one that married us.
A bear
Yeah.
is going to show up and attack you again to interrupt the wedding.
Indeed.
For that, I say yes. It's happening. Wait. Keith, will you marry him?
Well, Mr. J4, anything is possible, but I would like to take this time to let you know that I ain't no street meat. You need to wine and dine me first, sweetheart. So maybe in the future.
Oh, shut down.
I don't know if it's legal in Canada, but if you guys need to get that done, you can come over to Massachusetts if you want.
All right. Well, there we go.
Alrighty, that's a show, folks.
Definitely.
I'll just jump right into final announcements. There's something we actually forgot to mention at the midpoint of the show, but this Friday, May 22nd, we are going back to our little Twitch channel, so you should head over to twitch.tv/ByteThat and click the follow button so you know anytime we're streaming. But we're going to be streaming Keith and myself playing Saints Row the Third, not just playing it co-op, but playing it co-op as CM Punk and John Cena.
Me and Ryan are going to play the best wrestling game of last generation, Saints Row the Third. And if you're saying to yourself, well, what do you mean Saints Row isn't a wrestling game? Tune in, watch, and find out, because it will be a learning experience.
There'll be a lot of DDTing pedestrians in the street, so you'll want to see that. So definitely check that out. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast if you have not already. Like Juan said, we've got an SRT coming up this Thursday where, should Raw be more booked like a TV show or more like a sport? You can also check out the JTG interview on last week's podcast or on a separate video on our YouTube channel if you haven't already. And of course, check out Fyte Night, our fantasy wrestling league, where we had Roman Reigns on the latest episode, so you don't want to miss that WWE crossover. We're doing it better than the NXT WWE crossover, maybe. You be the judge. Let us know. Check out our Twitter at ByteThat. Interact with us. Ask us your questions through Twitter, or you can do it through email, ByteThatcast@gmail.com. We also got a Facebook page, facebook.com/ByteThatcast. And Instagram, we post photos. It's cool. Do you like to look at pictures? Of course you do. It's
so much social media.
So many things to get through. Everything else, you can go to ByteThat.com. So thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week.